What's going on, guys? It's Frito here for your Overwatch. The Week 1 developer blog for the Phase 2 of the beta just went up, and in this one, they addressed some of the community's biggest problems with some of the characters they've been experimenting with and announced that they have some pretty big changes coming through. So they have been compiling player feedback, squashing bugs, and gearing up for the mid-cycle patch, which I would assume would have to be coming rather soon, considering the beta overall ends on the 15th. Keep in mind, if you haven't got into the beta for whatever reason yet, and you have signed up by the deadline, there is going to be one final wave where the last bit of everyone will be able to get in and try out the changes. So, as they mentioned on the forums last week, they're going to talk a little bit more about Mercy and Symmetra, as well as thoughts on Junker Queen and Q times. So first up, we've got Mercy. Guardian Angel gives Mercy important mobility that is key to her survivability. Over time, players learned that if you jump during the ability at a specific time, you could launch Mercy up into the air. This is super cool, however, it was completely unintentional. Mercy's super jump was the result of a bug that occurred during Guardian Angel, but players made it part of her utility. We liked the idea of a bug turned into a feature, so the changes to Mercy in this beta were meant to make the super jump more reliable and consistent. We saw some issues with the implementation of this latest version throughout the first week of the beta, so we'll be changing up the ability in the mid-cycle patch. Our goal with the next change is to give players even more control over Guardian Angel while also increasing its flexibility. After the patch, Guardian Angel will not automatically launch Mercy into the air, but it will now have a meter that charges while the ability is active. When canceling Guardian Angel with jump, Mercy will now be launched into the direction she is facing. The more charge she gets during the ability, the more momentum the launch has when she cancels it with jump. We're looking forward to seeing how the community engages with this ability in the beta to get Mercy ready for Overwatch 2 launch. Now, based on the Mercy player feedback that I've been reading across the internet, I would say this is more in line with what players were asking for, because the automatic super jump kind of just robbed the agency and skill and timing and finesse of the ability altogether. Of course, it also had wacky bugs with being able to cancel it and spam it. That wasn't intended. No one expected that to stay. But now that you're able to cancel it as well as have a movement resource that you can min-max as well as manage, I think Mercy players are going to find this really cool and give you something extra to do. Honestly, this reminds me a lot of feedback that EVA has given on the character over the years, where the most hardcore of Mercy players kind of want more things to manage, and having a mobility meter is that kind of thing. Now, the implementation of this will be everything. Hopefully they get it down this time, but I want to remind everyone that we are still in beta, so they're going to be trialing things out. Sometimes it's going to break, and we have to test it and give feedback. So good job on all that. Let's just try not to act like everything's burning down. We're trying to fix this before the real launch of the game come October 4th. Now, next up is to Symmetra. We recognized in the first beta that Symmetra didn't quite fit into the play space Overwatch 2's changes were defining. Faster paces, more engagements, less barriers. There are fewer tanks that Symmetra can use to charge up, and the removal of Assault, 2 CP maps, takes away a defensive stage that she previously shined on. We expected the changes to Symmetra's teleporter and secondary fire speed to be the primary solutions, but we overshadowed these with other nerfs. Now, I don't think they actually addressed it enough. We'll get to that in a second. One of these nerfs was no longer gaining ammo from barriers, which we removed to put back into her ammo capacity since barriers are much less prevalent. Our reasoning for some of the other nerfs was that Symmetra is already a statistically strong hero, and we feared these changes would push her over the edge. That said, one of the benefits of this beta is that we can make changes in iterations prior to launch. We're currently trying out the following changes in internal tests. Secondary fire projectile size increased from 0.4 back to 0.5. secondary fire charge time reduced from 1.2 back to 1 second, and the teleporter cooldown reduced from 16 to 12 seconds. Additionally, we have another change for her in mind that we're currently testing internally. This iteration charges her primary fire beam to level 3 faster to help compensate for less tanks and shields to charge it up. We're not sure if this change will stick, but our goal is to make Symmetra feel more natural in Overwatch 2. Now, my issues with this is that I think these are kind of band-aid changes, and the biggest nerf to me overall was the damage breakpoint on her alternate fire. It going down to 90 damage per orb shot. I almost don't care how fast it is. They'd have to like supercharge the speed and charge up rate of it for that 90 damage to ever feel threatening to me, considering Symmetra is a character whose mobility tools are really just only in the teleporter, which means she kind of needs to go in and nuke a thing and then get out. And well, if her big orb attack isn't impressive and it's more of a it's okay to sustain with her, well, that's not doing the things that I think they're saying they're trying to do. It's like no amount of her maintaining in the battle faster is going to all of a sudden make her a character that is like Tracer or Soldier who can kind of dynamically ebb and flow with the combat. Symmetra is an all-in burst ability type hero, whether that means using her teleporter to dive bomb the backline with teleported sentry turrets with her in order to make those more solo queue-esque plays, or the big team plays of putting the teleporter down and getting her team into position. Either way, that is the impact of her kit. And I don't think that these things are really changing that. No matter what, she's going to be a high win rate type hero because you really can only pick her to do those big plays. And they know that. They explained this with the stats beforehand in previous blog posts, that they know that stats get skewed for a character like Symmetra. So I'm kind of confused why they're also using that as an argument for what they're doing, but we'll have to give them some time with this one. With these buffs, she'll like kind of scale a bit upward, but I'm worried about Symmetra kind of making sense in the game for all tiers of play. And frankly, a lot of characters have these issues where they either are really good at pub stomping or really good at the team level and are really bad vice versa. I think Overwatch 2's every character is going to feel this way if they're a little bit niche. So next up, for another niche type pick, we're going to talk about Junker Queen and continued testing. Over the past week, we've seen tank queues surge with the release of Junker Queen, as many players wanted to try out our newest hero. While this is generally something we expect when we release new heroes, we've been encouraged to see queue times improve and even out somewhat already. Our initial thoughts on her gameplay are that she fits well into more offensive, aggressive playstyles in Overwatch 2. I would also say to everyone, if you want to like meta theory craft what Junker Queen's good at, like attacking is really good for her. Defending, she kind of just stands around and waits and has not a lot of plays to make, but when she can attack a point, like if we had Assault back, she would be amazing on Assault. But any mode that kind of, or any map type, I would say, that feels like you can assault an objective like that, she's really good. Now, the devs go on to say, we've fixed a few of her bugs in the upcoming mid-cycle patch, but she's still early in the testing phase. We're going to continue to watch how she performs in the beta to prepare her for our launch, October 4th. There are some other heroes we are watching, like Zenyatta and Sojourn, who may need to be tuned down a little prior to launch. We like the direction of Roadhog's ultimate changes in the beta, and we're working on making it feel more intuitive and polished. The team will continue to work on these improvements leading up to launch. In the meantime, you can expect some changes to Moira and Mercy in the upcoming mid-cycle patch. Of course, they mentioned the new movement meter bar for Mercy, but Moira, we're still unsure exactly what those changes will be. I hope it's another, let's say, complicated MOBA-esque style resource management support kit to Moira. I'd be excited to see that. Please keep sharing your feedback and thoughts. This beta brings us one step closer to launch, and we are thankful to our community and its involvement with the testing. So I think Junker Queen continuing our discussion of heroes that are good pump stomper heroes, she's just like the quintessential version of that, where her counters might be team oriented and she really punishes mistakes well, and that I think is probably fine for Overwatch 2 design. And I'll have more to say about this in upcoming videos. Characters like Zenyatta and Sojourn I think are way too forgiving. Other characters I'm on the lookout for, I'll make dedicated videos for. I just can't believe they buffed Junkrat's projectile size. Why did they do this to the poor average player base? There's going to be a lot more conversations to have about how they're balancing the game. And the biggest takeaway for me with that is that they really, really need to not overemphasize top-down balancing in this game, because the rift between what an average player experiences and what skilled players experience is even wider than it was in Overwatch 1. Whereas in Overwatch 1, yeah, there's a lot of these intricate team comps, but largely team comps could kind of play themselves when they were meta. Whereas in Overwatch 2, there's a much higher skill floor to access the counters of, say, Junkrat or whatever, in order to get that to work. And so it's going to be relegated to much higher tiers of play that really understand the depth of the game and how to rule out a lot of options. And you can't only balance for that when the rest of the community is going to be struggling with a lot of these game elements. So the best example of this, of course, is in Overwatch 1, where they buffed Reaper in an attempt to counter Goats, which didn't make any sense at the time, and then destroyed lower level play. They're kind of doing that again in a few different ways, but we'll continue that conversation with more videos down the road. Let me know your thoughts on this week's One's Phase 2 beta blog in the comment section down below. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. We'll see you guys next time.